All right, so I want to welcome my guest, and he is this way on the camera. I finally figured this out. You got to point this way, even though it's not the way it looks when you're on the screen. All right, so this is Josh Hinger. If you don't know who he is, he's a black belt at Atos. He's a three-time black belt no-gi world champ. He won the bronze at ADCC last year. He's won the ADCC trials. He's won a bunch of shit in jiu-jitsu, so he's an overall jiu-jitsu badass. And that's part of the reason I want to have him on the show, is just to understand, what does somebody who's competing at the highest level, what do they do? How do they take care of themselves? How do they train? All of that stuff. So I definitely want to thank you for coming on, Josh.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. My pleasure. You know, I do a lot of podcasting too, so I understand how difficult it is to get guests, you know, and how difficult it is to coordinate with those guests and to get a good conversation with them. I know it's difficult, and I apologize for rescheduling on you because I did that one time, and
yeah, and Josh is particularly difficult to get a hold of because when I initially reached out to him, he was doing a seminar tour, and then he went on vacation to Mexico, and then he had some special guests from out of town come in, and so I've been chasing him down for a while. But
and those guys are still in town, and I just had to they're off doing something, and I had to just kick them to the curb and say, sorry guys, I'll have to catch up with you later.
Well, I definitely appreciate it, and so a couple other things to know about Josh. So again, as I said, he's competed and won at the highest levels in jiu-jitsu, but he's also has his own podcast. It's the Matt Burn podcast with Keen Cornelius, and he has a move named after himself, which if you're in jiu-jitsu means you're a really big deal. So it's called the Hingertine, and it's a
rite of passage, huh?
Exactly. Like if you're cool, then you get your own named after yourself.
And you can't give it to yourself. That's the thing. I didn't give it to myself. I would have chosen a different name. I don't even like the name. But yeah, it was Ricardo Amendolia. He's the flow grappling guy. He gave this to me in 2014, I think.
All right, so let's kind of jump into it. So I mentioned that you have some special guests in town that you're working with.
Yeah.
So you're rolling with Stylebender. So yep. From what I've heard, he's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. So is he actually a blue belt? Or are they like holding him back because the UFC guy?
Nah. He's legitimately a good blue belt. That's a very accurate level for him for me to say. We were thinking maybe if he spent a little more time here, we could level him up real quick and bump him up to purple. And that might happen because he's been here for almost a month now, and they got a few more weeks. So if he's consistent for the next few weeks, I mean, because he's a freak athlete, right? You can teach the guy anything. He learns it fast. He absorbs. He understands. Athletes pick things up quickly. And his jiu-jitsu is improving exponentially as the more he trains with us here in San Diego. So maybe Andre will bump him up to purple like before he goes. Maybe not. Definitely Brad Riddell is Izzy's number one training partner, sparring partner / best friend. Brad is a phenomenal grappler too. I definitely believe we're gonna slap him with a purple belt before he leaves because he's a blue belt too. And then there's Carlos Olberg. He just won the Dana White Contender Series last month. That's why they're here actually. They're here because of Carlos's fight. And Carlos is the whitest of white belts that there is, and he's probably going to stay a white belt, or he's not getting a blue belt.
So he's still flailing around, and
yeah, he's a total knucklehead on the mats. Yeah, he's definitely just a purebred striker. Like he's a boxer, kickboxer, phenomenal striker though, phenomenal. But yeah, his grappling is very new to him. He's as green as they come.
Do you find it hard for guys making that transition from pure strikers to now I got to actually figure out how to hold somebody down and take him down? Like, is it difficult, or most of them pick it up pretty easy?
They're definitely very uncomfortable off their backs. They don't like to be on their backs at all. For these guys, anytime they're on their back or in a bad position, they're going to turn to their hands and knees. They're going to try to stand up, and of course, as a jiu-jitsu guy, I'm going to jump on their back and try to finish them. But they have phenomenal back defense. I think most MMA fighters have phenomenal back defense, because if you're on the canvas and you need to get back up, you're going to have to put a hand and a knee on the mat, and you're going to have to try to tripod yourself back to your feet. And for sure, there's always a guy jumping on your back. But these guys are really good at not letting you connect your hands for the seatbelt grip, keeping your hands separated, tripoding your hips up. They call it twerking. You got to twerk your way out of it. you know, because they put their ass in the air, they put their head down, and they just shake. They shake, and you fall off the top. And they're actually really, really good at it. All of them are really good at it. And especially Izzy and Carlos, they're very tall. They're both 6'4". So when they twerk you, like, you're definitely going to fall off the top. Like, they can basically flip you upside down. And even for me, like, I'm pretty good with holding back control, but it can be difficult. They can hold you there for a long time, and they're really good at reaching down, grabbing one hook and ripping your hook out, and then twerking you off. This is like Brad's strategy all around in general, to get back to his feet, because they're all strikers. You know, they're all phenomenal strikers, so they always want to be on their feet. And yeah, I totally forgot where we were going with that.
You're good. No, I've rolled with a couple of MMA guys, like at competitions, and I can get into good positions. Like I get to mount or side control or whatever, but like they go so fucking crazy, like bucking you off and getting to a better position. Like you eventually end up not wanting to be there because it's such a hassle to try to deal with.
Yeah, it's for them is life and death, right? If someone's mounted on you, you're going to die.
Yeah.
Death is imminent. So it makes more sense for them to belly down. You're going to take maybe a few punches. In the jiu-jitsu world, they're just going to, you know, get some cross faces and some threatening chokes. But man, the second they build up to their base and they start twerking, like, it becomes very difficult to lock in a submission on them. What I actually ended up doing, I don't even try to hold the back control anymore, because it's difficult. It's very difficult. You'll burn yourself out squeezing your thighs just trying to hold on to them, especially if it's no-gi. And so what I do is I let go of the back control. I spin back around in front of them and I jump on the guillotine on the front end, because it takes way less effort. And for me, of course, I love guillotines, you know, so it's easy for me to control them. I use the guillotine to sweep them. But most guys will try to stay on the back. And then if they start falling off, they'll try to jump on the arm bar, you know, when you're sliding off someone's back and you hit the arm bar. But these guys this is like, they're here every day. This is their very normal position for them to fight from.
Yeah.
What they're not accustomed to is someone letting go of the back and going to the front headlock and grabbing a guillotine. So
yeah, we'll definitely talk about the Hingertine in a little bit. So let's take a step back for a second. So I was reading about you, kind of doing my homework. So you have an undergrad in poli-sci. So did you want to be a lawyer when you were younger?
I thought about a lawyer. Yeah, I did. Actually, what I was going to do is I was going to join the military.
Okay.
Because I love to travel, and the military is like, oh, they're going to pay me, give me some benefits, let me shoot guns, and let me travel. I was like, how can I not want to do this, you know? But I ended up joining the Peace Corps instead, actually.
And so where'd you go in the Peace Corps?
Turkmenistan.
So that's like the former Soviet Union, like by Kazakhstan and
yeah, most people don't even know that, but yeah, it is. It was the last. It's the southernmost Soviet republic. So it bordered Afghanistan, and that's where the Soviets moved south to try to invade Afghanistan, is through Turkmenistan.
Okay.
And of course, they failed to take Afghanistan. And then, and Turkmenistan is very much like North Korea. It's a hermit country with a crazy dictator, but no one really cares about them because they don't want to acquire nuclear weapons, and they don't want to blow anybody up. So they're super quiet and peaceful. They're crazy. The government is crazy. The people are great. The government is nuts, just like North Korea. Like, no different. The only difference is they don't have nuclear weapons. So no one bothers them. They don't bother anyone. No one bothers them. They have a bunch of natural gas to sell. So they just live their life and do their thing, and they have a little hermit country. But it's a super weird place. It's the most Soviet country still in existence. So if you want to like go back in time and see what the Soviet Union was like, you go to Turkmenistan.
So like what we think of, so like broken down buildings and like, you know,
absolute shit
and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't want to hate on the country too much, but yeah, the infrastructure is shit. And it's not the people's fault, it's the government's fault. They have so many natural resources, natural gas, they have oil, they have a whole bunch of stuff. And they could be like Dubai if the government wanted to be like Dubai. They could be filthy rich. They could distribute the money to their people. There's not even 5-6 million people in the whole country. It's like not even LA County, you know? Like, and they just have a fuck ton of natural gas that they can sell. I think they have the 4th largest natural reserves of natural gas in the world. So they very much could be just like Dubai, filthy rich. Everyone could be filthy rich, but the government keeps all the money. So it kind of sucks, you know. It's difficult. It's difficult to be there. It's a very, very difficult country to work in as a foreigner.
Yeah, I'm sure, you know, it's hard because you want to help these people and, you know, build either houses or schools or whatever, but it's the challenge because you constantly run into roadblocks and just the normal bullshit.
The red tape, man. Everything has red tape on it. You can't do anything without permission, and getting permission is impossible. So it's like, to be honest, when I was there, I really felt like I was wasting my time. I was like, what am I doing here? They don't let me do anything. Like even my own movement was restricted, not unlike California today.
Yeah.
But my movement was highly restricted. If I went anywhere, they wanted to know where I was going, how long I'll be gone, when I'm coming back, and what did I say to everybody. You know, like, what are you talking about? What are you doing? They would send Secret Service to my house, the house that I lived at. I lived with a family, and when I was gone, they would grill this family. And I didn't find this out until way later, but they would send people to interview my family when I wasn't there, and try to get some information about what I'm doing. What do I talk about? Am I a spy? You know, it was crazy. It was bonkers.
And I'm sure you're doing super secret missions, AKA like building churches and schools and
right. Man, I worked at a school. I that was my job. I worked in a school. I was an English teacher. I would help with all the classes. You know, I would just try to improve the school a little bit. It was an absolute shack. It's just a shack with 7 rooms. They don't even have chalkboards, like decent chalkboards, it was a mess, man. And I can write grants and get money and help them, teach them how to write grants to the embassy, like all sorts of embassies, the British embassy, the French embassy, the US embassy, like they all have grant programs where you could write money, write a grant and then get some money for some projects. But literally the government would be like, no, we don't need that. You know what I mean? They're like an arrogant, stubborn human who needs help but won't accept help, because if they accept help, that's admitting that they had a problem, and that's like the number one thing they don't do. They don't admit that they have any problems. Like, they deny the existence of AIDS in their country. They deny the existence of hepatitis, which is rampant. They deny the existence of COVID. They're like, nah, there's no COVID here, we don't have it. No, you know. But of course, like, millions of people have it. They just don't acknowledge it because, God forbid, they're not perfect. You know, it's crazy, man. Absolutely crazy.
All right, so we'll get off.
I can go on forever about it, man. I'll fucking run circles around this topic. It's maddening. It's so frustrating.
So
let me close it out like this. I'll close it out because they actually had to shut down the program. The Peace Corps left Turkmenistan because the government gave us so many problems. I was there in 2006, 7, 8. And they closed it down in 2011. So now it doesn't exist and they have no help at all.
All right, so let's go to a similar topic. So what's it like working at a gym, trying to work out in Southern California right now?
It's impossible. It's fucking impossible. So I have a 24-hour fitness across the street from my place, and that's where I usually lift weights. And it's a super sport one. It's a big, beautiful gym. They charge me $50 a month, but they have everything. And literally every single amenity has been shut down for the entire year, yet they still charge me $50 a month. Even though the racquetball courts are off limits, the pool's off limits, sauna's off limits, as if coronavirus could live in a sauna, which it can't, I'm sure.
It's degrees.
Yeah, right. And then so they were letting us lift weights for a bit. We just had to have the mask on and we could hit the weights, and that was cool for a while. I didn't mind it. But now they shut down all the indoor operations. So they cleared out a section of their parking lot. They built a wedding tent. They put a bunch of equipment outside. So you can still go there. Of course, they're still charging $50 a month for what is now like 20% of the gym. You have to make an appointment to go there. You have to wait in line because there can be only so many people under the tent at a time. And there's only like one bench, one squat rack. It's ridiculous. I'm just going to cancel the membership, to be honest.
So work out indoors, as long as the indoors is not actually indoors. That's the basic, the premise of it.
Yeah, that's under a tent, so it's outdoor, so it's okay.
Okay.
But it's a huge gym with thousands of members, and like, now you have to make an appointment, but it's just impossible. It's a mess, man. Atos, we were trying to stay open as long as we could. Andre was real stubborn. He didn't want to close it down again, and but he had to last week. Someone I guess complained. You know, there's a lot of people that drive by the gym and they see the foot traffic. They can't see inside. They don't know what we're doing inside. But anyway, someone complained, and the city kind of came by and gave Andre a hard time. So we had to shut down for this week and over Thanksgiving. So we figured, what not? Okay, we'll just shut it down. And then I think sometime next week, we're going to try to open up with like, you know, COVID limitations and limited spaces and stuff like that.
Do you guys get an exemption because you're professional athletes?
Not that I know of. I know a lot of countries do. I know a lot of places do. I don't know if California cares about athletes or not. I go in there by myself with like 2 or 3 friends, and we just do our own little training sessions. So 3 of us, we train in a corner. We clean it up really well when we're done. And we only train together. We only hang out together. Like basically it's me and the boys from New Zealand and like 2 other of my best friends. And that's it. And we just kind of stick to each other. Luckily, Brad and Izzy they went to the Mike Tyson fight last night.
Yeah.
Did you watch that?
I didn't watch it. Obviously, I heard the outcome.
It was so good. It was so good, man. Like they looked like a couple old men boxing, but they looked good. It was very entertaining. I really enjoyed watching it. It was super fun because I used to watch Mike when I was really little, you know?
Of course.
And it was so cool to see it. So Israel was a commentator, you know, you saw that or you've heard of it?
I heard it, yeah.
And Brad was his +1. And it's just so shitty because, you know, of course, both of them are strikers and they love striking. So they love the idea of boxing and Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. And then at the last second, they told Brad he can't go in. So they gave him a COVID test. He bought a new suit, paid $1,000 for his new suit. And then at the last hour, they said, no, man, sorry, you can't have your +1. So just Izzy went in. Brad had to come back here. We watched it on the pay-per-view. But they both had COVID tests and they were both negative. So, and I was so glad, you know, I haven't had a test in the past few weeks and I've been training with these guys every day. And I was just thinking, well, if they have it, I have it. And if they don't have it, I don't have it.
Yeah.
So luckily they were negative. So now I believe I'm negative because I haven't really been around anyone else.
Yeah. I'm on test number 8 because, you know, because people, you know, I roll with them and then 2 days later they don't feel good. So they get tested. So then I got to get tested. So yeah, I'm on I think 8 or 9, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Nice. All negatives?
Yeah. All negatives so far.
In my opinion, man, I don't think it's a matter of if some of us are going to get it. I think it's a matter of when. I think everyone's going to get it at some point over the course of the year. I don't believe, I'm sure a lot of the country will take the vaccine. I believe a lot of people won't take the vaccine. If we do take a vaccine, I think the virus will evolve just like influenza evolves and the cold virus evolves. So I don't see why this one won't evolve. I don't believe it's going to be as severe going into the future. I think we'll develop some herd immunity. I hope. It's my hope. But I think it's inevitable, man, especially for me, like in the jiu-jitsu culture and always training with people and on the mats. I think it's inevitable that I'll get it eventually.
I don't know how you could avoid it. Cause I mean, we're literally sweating all over each other and like, it's not great, but like a dude's sweat drops in your eye or in your face. Like, yeah, it's just part of the deal.
Yeah. And this is my life and I can't just uproot my life and drop it completely. I'm a grappler. I've been a grappler my entire life. I'm not going to just quit grappling and do something else. I'm not going to do that. You know, this is my life, my passion, it's my life. So I have to accept the fact that I'm high risk. I'll definitely catch it. It's inevitable. So it's just a matter of when, I think.
So you mentioned you've been a grappler your whole life. So let's kind of take a step back. So you have kind of a weird story because I've seen a couple of videos of it. You know, like the exact date when you started jiu-jitsu, right? Yeah,
July 2nd.
Okay, so July 2nd. So how did you get into jiu-jitsu and then kind of what's the story from there?
I was a wrestler in high school. And I didn't even want to wrestle in high school. I was a cross-country runner and I was also on the track team. And my cross-country coach asked me if I would go to wrestling for the winter season, right? Because cross-country is fall, track is spring. There's that winter time where there's winter sports. And he's like, you should go do some wrestling. And I was like, nah, I don't want to. You know, like I was happy on the track team. I had a bunch of friends there and he's like, just go try it. And I was like, nah, I don't want to. He's like, go for 1 week and then you can come back and I'll drop it. And I was like, all right, I'll go for 1 week. And man, I did the first wrestling class and I was hooked. I was like, this is so cool. I had so much fun. I got destroyed, you know, but it was so much fun. And now that I think about it, when I was a little kid, I used to always wrestle in the grass with my friends. Like when I was like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and we would just headlock the shit out of each other. And that's how you won, you know?
Yeah.
If you could headlock them and hold them there for like, 10 minutes until they give up, then you win. And I did that my entire childhood. So wrestling came natural, very natural. They put me on the varsity team because there was a vacancy in that weight class. It was 119. So I wrestled varsity 119 my freshman year. I got absolutely obliterated the entire year. I got just fucked up by everybody because I didn't know anything. I was a freshman. I had no experience. The guy who was wrestling at 112 was the team captain. He was a senior. And so I was the best training partner for him because I was just a little bit bigger than him, but I'm just about the same size. He would cut a lot of weight, so we were pretty much the same size. And his name was Joe Vargas. I'll never forget this name, Joe Vargas. And I thought he was the man, in my opinion. I was a freshman and new, and he was like the senior, and he was like a favorite to win the CIF, which is like the regional championship. And Joe, he was very serious. He used to just train really hard. He never fucked around. He was super focused. And I think he really implanted like an impression on me that this is how you train. This is how you work hard. You stay focused. You don't fuck around. You take training very seriously. And this was my first experience in the grappling world. And he was my training partner, and he was the team captain. So I really looked up to him. And now that I think about it, I very much carried this mentality with me my entire career. And I have no idea what happened to Joe. And I'm very curious where he is, because he really influenced my life in a big way. And I have no idea where he is or what happened to him. And I would like to say thank you to him someday. But anyways, I wrestled for 4 years. I did pretty well. I finished top 10 in the state for California my senior year. And then I had nothing. I had no wrestling for 3 years. I was just kind of a lost soul. I was partying and going to the desert and riding motorcycles and just being a shithead in general. And one day I was outside washing my car in front of my house, and my buddy drove by from wrestling, and I hadn't seen him in years. And we just kind of caught eyes. Just that 1 second, right when they pass your house. Yeah. Backed up. We started talking, and he was going to jiu-jitsu the next day. Like some new jiu-jitsu academy opened up, and he invited me to go with him. And of course, I made fun of him. I made some karate chop hands. And he goes, "No, man, it's like a UFC cage fighting." And I was like, "Oh, cool. Let's go." And I went, I did it. And just like wrestling, man, I did one class and I was hooked. And that was July 2nd, 2003. My first class. Yeah. It was with Chris Brennan, who was the West Side Strangler. Old school UFC fighter, like maybe like UFC 10 or 15 or something like that. He fought Pat Miletich when Pat Miletich was the champ.
Nice.
Yeah, Pat was the man back in the day.
And then he built camp with, with all of those Robbie Lawler and all the other guys that kind of came out of there.
Yeah, and so I started with Chris, and I picked it up real fast. I was a wrestler. I got my blue belt within 4 months. And when I was a white belt, I could take his blue belts down and mount them. I didn't know any submissions, but I could take them down and mount them and hold them there. And I was a white belt. So he hit me up one day. He's like, "Hey, you want to fight?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, like cage fight, get in a cage fight. And I was like, "Really? You think I can?" I was like, "I don't know anything." He's like, "You got good wrestling. It's enough, for a 0-0 match, with someone else has a 0-0 record." He's like, "Just take him down, hold him down, and beat him up." I was like, "All right, let's do it." And so we went to Lake Havasu, Arizona, actually. Yeah, so we was in Lake Havasu, and this was when MMA was still illegal in California. You couldn't do it here at all. And if you did it, you had to do it on the Indian reservation, like Saboba with King of the Cage, or we go to Arizona. And so I did it in Arizona. I had my first 3 fights in Arizona. My 4th fight was King of the Cage at Saboba Casino here in California. And then my last fight was the 5th one in Hawaii, Honolulu, for the X1, which is actually still a promotion that's still going now. But this was their first event that they ever had, was X1. And I remember Jeff Monson was on that fight card, and so was Dan Severn. I think it was like his last fight, man. It was like the last fight of his career, but Dan Severn fought Shannon Rich. And if you know anything about MMA, you definitely know who Shannon Rich is, Shannon the Cannon. Yeah. He has like over 200 fights, man. He would fight like twice a night all the time. He was a crazy guy. but yeah, that's how I started jiu-jitsu and MMA. And so I fought for 2 years, and I did a bunch of grapplers quests, and yeah, I got sucked into the life.
So, you mentioned, I think you got it in 2003, right? July 2nd, 2003 is when like your first class ever.
Yeah.
And it's 2020 now because we're talking about the Rona and all of that nonsense. So
Yeah.
on this 17-year journey, what are some of the biggest ahas or takeaways that you've had, that you've learned from jiu-jitsu?
100% the most important thing you can do in jiu-jitsu is simply surround yourself with the right people, right? Whoever you surround yourself around, like they say, the 5 people you spend the most time around, these are the people who define kind of who you are. Like who you are is simply a combination of these 5 people. And it's so true, because I notice myself picking up other people's mannerisms, behaviors. I don't know if other humans do this, but I definitely do. I'm like a parrot, or a mockingbird. And I always catch myself picking up habits. I remember when I was a kid, we lived in kind of a rough neighborhood. I was like the only white kid in this, it was a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood. There's a lot of gangs, a lot of violence, a lot of shootings, and I was hanging out with the wrong kids, man. I was hanging out with the wrong crowd, and I was definitely turning into a shithead. And my parents moved us to Temecula, which is the complete opposite. It's just like cookie cut track homes, and everyone went to church. It was just a very quiet and nice place. And immediately my whole personality changed. I changed as a person. Like I got better grades. I started going to church. I had better friends. I was just a better person. And I think the same is true when you're training. If you train with people who are shitheads, or maybe people who want to just hurt people every day, they want to train just to prove their alphaness, or maybe they just want to, I don't know. I can't think of any examples right now, but like if you're around people who are influencing you in the wrong way, you are going to be influenced in the wrong way. It's not like, even if you're conscious of it, even if you're like, these people are kind of not good for you, but you think that you can stay true to yourself. I don't think it's true. I think subconsciously, maybe if even just in small pieces, they're going to chip away at you, and you're going to lose who you are. You're eventually going to become kind of what they are. And if you want to succeed, you need to find good people to be around, people who are a positive influence. And a lot of teams, there's a lot of, I don't know what the word is exactly, but how like locker room talk and how boys like to fuck with each other, and, like they poke at each other and just to kind of make fun of each other. And like, sometimes this can be very toxic. There's a way to do it that's fun and friendly and is cool, and you feel like the love. And there's other ways that it's not so cool.
I think there's like a threshold, right? Like, all right, I can talk a little bit of shit and fuck with you to here, but if I go here, then I'm just being an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. And so it's important to understand the difference, and I've talked to a lot of people who were members of teams, and they thought it was okay what was happening to them, like the kind of like the hazing and the kind of just picking at each other. And I don't want to call it bullying, but that's kind of what it was. And I asked some of these people, I said, why did you stay with that team for so long? They treated you like shit. They weren't there to support you. They were there to abuse you. They were abusing you emotionally, physically, mentally. And they just said, I thought that's what all teams were like. They said, I didn't know it was different. If I went to any other place, I figured it'd be the exact same, that this is just a hazing culture. Like you get whipped with the belt when you get the promotion, and this is just part of the culture, and you just got to be tough because we're just trying to make each other tough, because it's a combat sport. You got to be tough in a combat sport. But this is true. There's different ways of being tough, and there's different ways to make someone tough, and holding them down and like hurting them intentionally is not making someone tough. That's just hazing, and that's just being an asshole. So I was a part of some environments, like in wrestling, on the wrestling team. I remember my freshman year, it was very toxic. It was very toxic. I got bullied by some of the seniors on the team. And I think they thought they were trying to be like my big brother, But for sure, when I look back at it now, I'm like, nah, that shit wasn't cool. They were like really fucking me up. Like they would just like put me in a corner and start just pounding on me. And then when, you know, once I became part of a real team and I saw how people really treat you when they care about you, you know, how they uplift you, they push you, of course, they push your limits in training. They push your limits, you know, in the strength and conditioning. They push your limits when you're fighting and whatnot, but like also when you're down, they lift you up, you know? And I think this is super important. It's important. Yeah, it's important to push. Like, when I train really hard. I don't go easy on anybody. I'll smash someone because that's what we're doing at that moment. But when it's over and after like this person is completely destroyed mentally, physically, emotionally, you grab them and you lift them up and you pat them on the back, you hug them, you tell them you love them, they did a good job. Tomorrow's going to be better. Don't worry about it, because we all get beat up sometimes. This is very important. This is super important. You know, there's a way to be hard on your teammates and there's a way not to be hard on your teammates. And I think a lot of people don't understand the difference between what is toxic and what is productive.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I have a similar experience. So I played baseball in college, and I would say we definitely teetered more towards the toxic on the.
for sure, baseball, I think, is notorious for this.
Yeah, right. And so we were definitely more on this. I haven't had it in jiu-jitsu, luckily. Like, my team is like, we beat the shit out of each other, but then we're like, all right, good job, man, and let's help you up. And here's how I did this, or
Yeah.
happened, right? And so that's fine. Like, it's finding guys that you like trust, because you like literally are trusting people not to hurt you, right? Like,
Yes.
if I want to be an asshole and hold an arm bar too long, well, then I'm gonna fucking blow out your elbow, right? And so you have to develop that, and the only way to do it is to have good guys around you.
Yeah. Funny, I don't know the whole story, actually. It's been too long, but the baseball team at the high school I went to, they got in big trouble because they were hazing some kids, and they started like poking each other in the butt with something, a baseball bat or something like that. And it turned into a sexual harassment case. Some kids got thrown out of school. The coach got fired. It was a big fucking mess, man. But yeah, that was very toxic. You know, that's a very toxic environment, and it's not cool. And yeah, I definitely have been a part of those toxic environments. And now that I'm at Autos, it's complete opposite of that. You know, like, yeah, we pick on each other a little bit, of course, but it's very much limited. And you know, I don't want to pick on my teammates in a way that makes them feel bad. I love these guys, you know, and I want them to be healthy, mentally healthy, emotionally healthy, and happy people. So it wasn't until I came to Autos that I really understood what like a good team environment looks like and what it should feel like. And I think a lot of people don't know. And I'll just take a moment for whoever's listening to say, like, it's okay to give your team like a good look, like a good, strong look, and really analyze, like, is this a healthy environment? Like, do these people really want what's best for me? Like, do they really care about me? And if not, get out, because not every team is the same. Every team is drastically different. And the culture in every team is drastically different. And whatever bad behavior your team or your coaches or the environment that you work in, whatever culture exists there, it's not the same everywhere. It's not. You can definitely, if you're not happy where you are, go somewhere else, 100%. And there are plenty of places out there that have a good supportive environment for people to like train and grow productively.
So you mentioned your team, and obviously you work at one of the best teams in jiu-jitsu, right? So you're at Autos HQ with Andre and Lucas and Canyon and all those kind of guys.
Yeah.
You know, do you have any favorite training partners amongst kind of the higher level black belts at Autos?
Yeah, Lucas is not one of them, and neither is Kynan. No, they're great. My favorite training partner is Andre Galvao, of course. I've been training with him since 2011, and man, it's almost nine years now. He's the best. We have very similar styles. We're very similar people, and we have very similar mentalities for training. And our jiu-jitsu is very much. I'm definitely not going to say we're the same in jiu-jitsu, but we both like to be on top. We both like takedowns. You know, we play the same kind of guards. We pass the same style, smash passing. I love training with him. Yeah, it's a blast, you know, and he trains really hard. He's very competitive. One of the most competitive humans I've ever met in my life. You can't even play checkers with this guy without turning into a war. He wants to win everything, and I love training with him. And you know, he's very strong, but he doesn't rely on his strength. He relies on his movement, and his movement is something that I've adapted into my jiu-jitsu over the past 9 years. And it's helped out my jiu-jitsu immensely. So I love training with Andre. Training with Lucas is very difficult. I used to love training with Lucas more, like maybe back in 2015, we used to have some really competitive training sessions, but he's just too much of a horse now, man. And same with Kynan. Kynan, you know, I always look at him like a little brother because he came when he was a purple belt and he was like 20 kilos less than he is now. And I used to just beat the crap out of him, man. And he was always very talented. He was very talented always. And he was just a good training partner. He was always very, very cool. Now I can't do anything to the guy, man. He's just so strong that if he wants to elevate me, he's going to elevate me. If he wants to grab hold of something, he's going to grab it. I think if he just body locked me and squeezed, it'd probably crack my ribs or something. He's just like, he's a fucking stallion, man. He's so strong. And they're still so young, man. And Luca's not so young, but Kynan's very young. And I think he's still maturing as a person, as an athlete. I think in 2 or 3 years, he's going to be an absolute unstoppable monster. I still train with him, but it's just not as fun for me as it used to be. You know what I mean? It was more fun back in the day. But, you know, I would say Andre is my favorite training partner for sure.
So I interviewed DC a couple of weeks ago. He said his least favorite training partner is Lucas because he can just power out of everything. And he was also kind of talking about how great it is to work with some of the world-class guys. And then we talked about, like, I asked him, I was like, all right, so have you ever gone to a match and been like, you see the guy on the other side go, oh shit, like I got to face this guy because you're like more well-known in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Ever had that where like right before you like slap hands, the guy's like, fuck, am I really rolling with like Josh Hinger?
Have I ever felt that?
Have you ever seen some guy like give you that look?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can feel when people are nervous, for sure. I've been on the other end of that also. I've been the guy who got nervous. You know, I remember I had to fight, I had a match with Homolo in 2015, maybe 16, I'm not sure. But I mean, yeah, it was the first time I ever had someone of that caliber, basically someone who's like the same level as Andre, you know? Him and Andre have been rivals forever, since purple brown belts, I think. And so basically when I was like facing Homolo, I said, okay, basically this is like someone else facing Andre in a match. Galval. And I'd say, how do you keep your composure, you know, when you do that? And it was still very early in my career, because I didn't start competing full-time until I was 2014. So 1 year of full-time competition, and now I'm facing Homolo Europeans. And yeah, he just destroyed me. It was embarrassing. But like I didn't have any grand illusions about winning, but maybe that was the problem also. Maybe I psyched myself out, and that's why I had a poor performance. But I feel it on the other end now with people when we go out there. I know people get nervous before the match. And after so many years of experience, I've had probably over 150 matches in the past 5 years. And you just learn how to read people really well. You know, I can just read people. I can feel the energy. I can see their body move, their behavior, just the way they carry themselves. It's very easy to read people. Just the body language and their vibes, you know. And so you can tell when they're nervous. When you shake their hand, you can tell when they're like moving with you on the mat. You can feel their hesitation. It's obvious almost. The hesitation is obvious. It's a huge mistake if you're in a competition. Like it's easier said than done, but you can't respect people in competitions. You can't acknowledge who they are. You can't allow their reputation to precede them. You know what I mean? You just got to treat them like another human. They can make errors just like anyone else. And maybe they make less errors because they're so experienced, but nonetheless, they're human and they make errors. And you have to try to find those errors and capitalize on those. But, you know, and that's something I figured out over the past, after a few years later, after I fought with Homolo, and I had a match with Felipe Pena also, same day, Europeans. It was a rough tournament. And, yeah. And then, but yeah, you learn. Now I know you can't respect anyone. You can't look at them as their name or their reputation. You just got to treat them like another body on the mat and and believe that you can beat them and that you have the ability to beat them.
So you've been talking a little bit about the mindset, right? Like regardless of who it is that you're fighting, it's, fuck it, they're another human, they can make an error, whatever. I've also kind of heard you talk about your mindset as far as getting ready for training. And it's kind of like the everyday Pohada kind of mindset of just get after it, go as hard as you can. How do you get ready for a big fight?
Yeah, you definitely have you have to understand that there's the only thing that you can do is your best. It's all that you can do. You can't do better than your best. It's impossible. You have to, whatever your best ability is, that's what you have, and you have to use it. The problem is most people don't use it. Most people don't do their best because they have a lot of self-doubt, right? If you don't believe you can win, you shouldn't even be in there. You shouldn't even go in there. You've already lost. You lost before the match even started. You have to believe that you have a technique or an ability to scramble or something. You have to believe in something, some ability in yourself that you believe you can use to win. I have a guillotine. I can guillotine anybody. It's without a doubt. I have no doubt in my mind. There's not a single person on this planet that I cannot guillotine. I can guillotine. Doesn't mean I will, but I know I can. I know if I have 10 matches with someone, one of them is ending in a guillotine. And maybe they'll beat me the other 9. If I have enough matches with someone at the highest level, maybe they beat me a few times, maybe I beat them a few times, but eventually, I will win. And you have to believe in that. And if you don't believe in that, you're lost. You're like walking through a maze without knowing where you're going. You're just lost. So you have to train it hard enough that you have, maybe it's not a submission, maybe it's just a technique, maybe it's a takedown. It's a takedown. Like I have a takedown that I love. I do it to everybody. And I believe I can do this takedown to anyone. And so I don't need to have like 1,000 techniques that are unstoppable. I just have 2. But I'm very confident with these 2. I believe I can take someone down and I can grab a guillotine. And I just try to run that game on everybody. And then over the years, I've learned how to adapt it to new styles and new counter techniques that people may throw at me. But if you don't really believe in yourself, if you don't truly believe in yourself, you're lost. You can't. You're not going to win. You know what I mean? And the only way to build that kind of like mental resilience is to train really hard. To train really hard with people that are really good, people who can beat you up. And like, yeah, you're going to have days where nothing works. You're going to try your move. I try my guillotines, and some days they don't work. Sometimes Kynan just literally grabs my hips, pushes me up, and throws me off of him. And I'm just like, fuck, I couldn't even hold on to this guy. Sometimes it's demoralizing, but you have to understand that not everyone is Kynan, right? No one is Kynan. He's very unique. Same thing with the Hulk. Lucas is very hard to guillotine. I will hold the guillotine on that guy for like a solid minute. He'll gurgle for 45 seconds like he's about to die, but he just keeps fighting and he keeps fighting. And then sometimes I burn out my arm and he escapes or whatever. But not everyone is Lucas, but this is a good way to train. And I believe that very few people could survive in my guillotine the way Lucas can,
All right, so we've talked about the Hingertine, or we've been kind of touching around it a little bit. So I've seen you several times kind of do a snap down, kind of grab the chin, and then go to like, I know you don't pull guard, but you then go to like a butterfly sweep, right?
Yeah.
What kind of tips do you have for finishing the Hingertine? I know you have an instructional, and yes, everybody should get it to figure that out. But what's like one tip for finishing that?
I will just say that what a lot of people don't do well is they don't acknowledge what their legs are supposed to be doing while they're holding the guillotine, right? Every submission, arm bars, triangles, every submission requires every piece of your body to be doing something, right? Your legs have a job, your arms have a job, your abs have a job, your head has a job. Everything has a job to finish a submission. At no point are you holding a submission and one of your limbs is just doing nothing. It's just chilling, right? This is the problem with guillotines. People grab the guillotine, they lock onto it with their arms and their head and their chest and their stomach, and they kind of forget what to do with the legs. And the legs are they have a huge role when you're doing a guillotine. And maybe you have the I don't know what it's called, not closed guard. It's like the kind of guillotine leg position that Marcelo always does, where he sticks the knee inside the belly of the shin and throws one leg over their hip.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's called. I don't like that finish at all. I prefer to close guard and finish the guillotines. But when you have that position that Marcelo likes to use, you have to understand what your legs need to be doing. They need to be doing something. They're not just like sitting there on the guy's back or his hips. You need to be engaging your legs in a certain way to make the person react. I prefer to get the close guard, so when I get that position where my legs are not closed, I try to attack the guillotine just enough so that the person tripods. Then I bring the bottom leg under and I close the guard. Once I close the guard, I can finish it easy. If I close the guard on a guillotine, it's a done deal. But the legs are very important, and using the hamstrings correctly to pull your hips up into the stomach of the other person is huge. And that's something that most people don't do. Most people try to extend their legs, like scissor lock them, and this is wrong.
Doing more of this, you're compressing.
Yeah, you got to curl. I always do this. It's a hamstring curl. Can you see the hamstring curl? This is my hamstring curl. So I always do this with people. You got to curl the hamstrings, and that helps fold the person, and that's how you finish the guillotine. You guys can check it out on my instructional.
Sure, yeah. Check him out. He's got the Hinger game on Jiu Jitsu X. It's everything you need to know.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of your overall training. So let's say you're not getting ready for a fight, you're not getting ready for Worlds. It's just a random week in the middle of the year. How often are you training jiu-jitsu? How often are you lifting, doing conditioning, that kind of stuff?
I try to do 2 exercise sessions every day. So either I'll
week?
No, 5 days a week.
Okay.
Yeah, Monday through Friday. It's a job, right? I treat it like a job. So Monday through Friday is my work week. Saturday, Sunday is my day off. I'll use Saturdays to make up workouts if I skipped one. Sometimes I take a half day on Wednesday. And if I do a half day on Wednesday, then I definitely do another half day on Saturday. So no matter what, I'm getting 5 full days. I'm getting 10 workouts a week. This is not training for competition, right? This is not like a camp, not ADCC camp. This is like everyday life. I want 10 workouts a week. So that's 2 a day. So typically it's either jiu-jitsu in the morning and weights in the evening, or it's weights in the morning, jiu-jitsu in the evening. And I just kind of decide what I want to do based on the schedule, because we alternate gi, no gi, Mondays, Wednesdays, or Fridays. And so if I feel like I want to do no gi, sometimes I'll lift weights in the morning and I'll do the no gi in the evening. Depends on what the competition team is doing, if we're in gi season or no gi season. So we do the competition trainings in the mornings. Those are 2-hour sessions. They're very hard. We do them pretty much year round. We'll take December off, like this month, because no gi pants just happened. We don't have any big competitions left for the year. So the competition class is kind of done for the year. And so now we'll just do the 9 a.m. class, which is the normal class for everyone. It's just a general jiu-jitsu class for whoever shows up at 9 a.m. So all the competitors will now train at 9 a.m. It's not 2 hours, it's only an hour and a half. And it's less intense. There's more technique, less training time. So, and then the evening is the same thing. 6 p.m. class is an hour and a half, a lot of technique, not a lot of sparring. So I'll pick one of these and I'll do them every day, either one or the other. And then I'll switch the other class with a weight session. I like to lift weights 4 times a week. Definitely 3 minimum. 4 is better. And then I mix in some running. I run. If I don't lift weights, I'll run. I don't love running, but I do it because I know it's good for me. It's good for the cardio. I do it for its more mental strength. It's something that I don't like to do, but I like to force myself to do it just to show myself that I can do whatever I want if I put my mind to it. I derive a lot of inspiration from David Goggins. You know Goggins, right?
I do. He's amazing.
Yeah, you read the book?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, great book. Really great book.
Him as a kid and his dad just beating the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And the bar that he owned and sleeping downstairs. Yeah.
It's tragic. The whole story is tragic.
Yeah.
But the way he rose to the top and he pulled himself out of that situation is very inspiring for me. And he was a big, bulky bodybuilder kind of like guy. And then he started just running, and now he's just this freak ultra marathon runner. So I run, and I always think of David Goggins, and I'm just like, I don't want to be running. This sucks. I fucking hate running. But I was like, but Goggins, I got to just dig deep and get it done. And when I'm done, I'm always happy. I'm always glad that I did it. And I find that running really helps me recover a lot between training sessions, like, or between rounds even, or even between weightlifting sets. I just find my heart rate goes down quicker. I'm fresh for the next set a lot quicker. So I recommend anyone, if you want to, just 30 minutes a day, not even every day, like just 2 times a week, 3 times a week. And I did that. I started doing that for ADCC camp. That's why I started running, and it helped out a lot. But yeah, I try to get 2 workouts a day every day, Monday through Friday, and Saturday is the makeup day, and Sunday strictly rest.
So it sounds like you do a bit of like a fight camp, getting ready for, Nogi Worlds or
Absolutely.
like that. So how far out do you start your camp, and then what does that camp look like leading into the fight?
For something like Nogi Worlds would be 8 weeks. For ADCC is 12 weeks, so 3 months. So ADCC was at the end of September. I would say July 1st, we started the camp officially. But to be honest, Andre and I were doing our own pre-camp in June. So mid-June, we said, okay, we're going to start the ADCC camp in July. And when we started, it's savage. It's really hard, especially in the beginning. So I was trying to ramp myself up 2 weeks before that, just to get ready for the camp so that the camp would be less painful.
Yeah.
So, man, you could even say that would be 14 weeks that I really started thinking about training hard. And then during the training camps, I always do 3 workouts a day. So it's a workout in the morning, strength and conditioning in the afternoon, and then another workout. Either it's jiu-jitsu, usually it's jiu-jitsu, or it's running. Now, it's 2 jiu-jitsu workouts a day, morning and evening, and the workout in the middle changes. It's either weights and running, weights, running, weights, running. And I'll do that for 12 weeks.
And that's on top of, like, you teach classes in between, I'm assuming, right?
Not anymore. No, I during ADCC I stopped, and then after ADCC I just didn't want to start again. But yeah, I taught the kids class for 5 years, and I don't do that anymore. It's just an inconvenient time in the day, and I was always I was always skipping days. I always had shit to do. It just became I became annoyed with myself because I was constantly telling them, sorry, I can't make it. And the kids were like getting really frustrated with me too, because I had a really good relationship with those kids. I still do. But they were always asking me, where are you? Why aren't you here? And they would send me messages on Instagram, like, we miss you, come back, what are you doing? And I felt really bad for being inconsistent. So I just told them, I said, guys, I'm gonna, I'll be around. I'm always here. I see them all the time, but I'm not teaching their classes anymore, because I just felt bad that I couldn't always be there for them when they expected me to be there.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Obviously, my 5-year-old daughter does jujitsu, and that's like her favorite part of the day, because she gets to take people down.
Yeah.
And it's that, and then just like seeing her professors like on a daily basis, and that relationship they build with you is awesome for sure.
Yeah, I was very close to these kids, and they're phenomenal. I mean, I believe we have the best kids team in the world, hands down, without a doubt. We win Pan Kids tournament every other year at least. Now we had AOJ as part of our team, and they have a pretty good kids program too. My kids are better, but it's whatever. But now that we're separate, it's more difficult to win the bigger tournaments, because we used to combine our points. And but my kids are, the quality of their jiu-jitsu is just amazing. And it's amazing. And it kind of makes me sad that I can't be there for them again, to watch how phenomenal they are. But a lot of them are growing up now. They're teenagers now. A lot of the kids, they used to be 8, 9, 10 years old. Now they're 15, 16. So they're not even really in my kids class anymore. They're kind of transitioning into the adult class, which is where I am now. So it's kind of nice. It's kind of bittersweet. Like, I don't get to hang out with the little kids anymore, but a lot of the kids that I've been with since, 2014, they're becoming young adults now. They're in, so I get to train with them in the adult class, which is kind of cool.
So we were talking about kids and how kids trained. You're now eligible to compete in the Masters if you would like to, as am I. I'm actually getting ready to move from one Masters level to another. I'm not going to say which one. But how has your training changed from, let's say 25-year-old Josh to Masters eligible Josh?
I train harder now than I ever have in my life, to be honest. I used to think I knew what hard training was. Does that make sense? Like I remember when I was a purple belt and a brown belt and I was getting ready for like a grappler's quest or something. And I thought doing, 5 rounds of 7 minutes was tough. I thought that was a hard day. Like I was like, that's a good workout. 5 rounds of 7 minutes. It's like, but when I went to Autos, they just blew me out of the water. Like what they had put me through, I thought this is just stupid. I said, this is too much. Like you guys are crazy. And, turned out it's not crazy. And it turns out it actually is very good training and it just makes you a complete savage. So like, yeah, sometimes we do 10 rounds of 10. And I just said, that is just stupid, like with all these guys, with these monsters, 10 rounds of 10, I was like, how do you get an easy round? Like, where's your rest round, And Andre looked at me one day and I was just like busted up one day. I said, I just didn't even want to be there. And he just looked at me and he said, you wanted to be a professional. Now you are. He's like, suck it up and deal with it. And I was like, oh, okay. So I did it. I sucked it up and it was pretty rough, man. It was like, it took me about a year, a solid year to adapt to that training style, how hard they train. And now I can't go back, now I understand what is hard training. And when I don't have that training, I feel kind of like, that was a waste, so it's difficult for me to travel actually, because I try to train, I go teach some seminars and sometimes I stay away for weeks and months at a time. And I'll be with some academies and they don't want to train hard, and I'm like, guys, I need to train. Like I'm traveling, but I need to train. I can't just get fat while I'm traveling and just teach. I need to train. And like, man, it's hard to find guys that are willing to train hard. You tell someone 10-minute round, they said, what, 10 minutes? Bro, that's a black belt match. That's a competition match. We got to do it. And we got to do a lot of them. So yeah, Autos really, they taught me how to train properly, and I think a lot of academies don't know how to train. They just think it's overtraining, but it's not overtraining. It's hard, but it's not overtraining if you live the lifestyle accordingly. Like if you're trying to go out and go to restaurants and bars and you're trying to go out and do stuff, like, yeah, it's overtraining because you're not resting when you should be resting. It's not overtraining if you train your ass off, you go home, you rest, you get in bed, you relax, you eat, you drink, you hydrate, get massages, stretch. It's a full-time job. It's more than a full-time job. It's not even 8 hours a day. It's 16 hours a day of focus on what your task is. You train, go home, eat, sleep, rest, eat more, drink some water, stretch. You got to do all these things throughout the entire day. You don't have time for anything else. You can't go to the beach. You can't go to restaurants. You can't go to parties. And if you're trying to do these things, it's not the training that's the problem. It's the lifestyle. You know what I mean? You gotta work hard and you gotta rest hard.
What do you do as far as recovery? You mentioned massages and stretching.
Fuck massages. I get so many massages, man. Yeah. Got to eat well, of course. Got to cut out the sugar, cut out the shit. Eat healthy foods. You got to hydrate obsessively. You can never hydrate enough. This is something I struggle with actually. Like even now, I'm like sitting here drinking this coffee. I'm just going to give a shout out to the Matt Burn podcast real quick. Matt Burn podcast.
That's cool.
Yeah, I drink way too much coffee. I should drink more water. Powdered supplements are great, like powdered greens. I love powdered greens because I don't eat enough green stuff. I love BCAAs. I always drink a protein shake every day. It doesn't matter how much I ate or not. I drink that protein shake just in case I didn't get enough. I get a massage every week if I'm training for something. Sometimes I'll go see a physio once in the week and a massage person later in the week. And the physio is kind of like a massage, but not really, you know what I mean? But they do some physio work on you maybe on Wednesday, and then I'll get a massage on Saturday. A lot of stretching. Again, this is also something I struggle with, is like I don't make the time to stretch the way I really should. Sometimes I just train and I just come back home, I jump back in bed, and then I get up a few hours later, and then I'm just like a wreck, man. I'm just like I should have stretched, I fucked up, and that's going to make the next training session more difficult, So I think I cannot, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but stretch. It's important. Stretch and hydrate. These are the two things I struggle with. But yeah, massages are great. having the proper diet, and then just not doing dumb shit. Like if you're trying to train hard, you have to rest between your sessions, and otherwise you're going to get tired. Your body's going to break down. You're going to get hurt, and that's that.
So let's, we kind of talked about overall training. We talked about what your fight camps look like. Let's say it's day of, right? You're getting ready for ADCC, no-gi worlds, whatever it is.
Yep.
The first match is at 1 o'clock. What does your day look like leading up to 1 o'clock when you finally like shake hands and bump fists?
I probably want to be there 3 hours before the match. So if my match is at 1 o'clock, I want to be there at 10. So I'll probably wake up at 8. That means I probably went to bed at 12 the night before. Got 8 hours of sleep, maybe. I don't usually sleep 8 hours, usually 7, but I'll stay in bed for 8 hours. So I get up at 8. I'm going to eat a really good breakfast, monster breakfast. So I'm going to have scrambled eggs, toast with avocado, a lot of coffee.
Even when you have like same day weigh-ins, you eat like a big ass breakfast?
I manage my weight accordingly so that I don't have to cut weight.
Okay.
I'm strictly against weight cutting. I weight cutted. I was cutting weight for 15 years. I cut weight like a moron. Just suffered. I suffered a lot. I wasn't very smart about how I did it. I never cut a lot at the last minute, but I would cut a lot the week before. Like a really strict diets, a lot of starvation. You could borderline say I had an eating disorder.
So do you walk around like 195, 200, somewhere in that neighborhood?
I'm not even close. No, I'm like 185 max.
So did you bulk up to go to ADCC? Because 80 kilos is one.
I was severely underweight. I was the smallest guy in the division for sure.
Oh.
Yeah, now, especially in no-gi worlds too. In 2016, the first year that I won, I was 5 pounds under. The next year, I cut a lot for 2017 because me and Keenan were both in the same category. And we both had won the division before, and we were trying to figure out what makes the most sense. But because we had 2 other teammates in the heavyweight division, we didn't want Keenan to go up to the heavyweight division. That'd be 3 of them. That'd be stupid.
Yeah.
He couldn't possibly make middleweight, so I just had to take one for the team, and I did the cut myself. I lost 16 pounds in 6 weeks to make middleweight no-gi, because the no-gi is lower than the gi division,
Yeah.
I suffered horribly during that camp, and I ended up winning, thank God, that year, but I barely won. I remember every match was super close, and I think the semifinals was a referee decision. The finals was 1 advantage win. And then 2018, I went back up to my normal weight. Keenan split. I don't know where he went. I think he did it heavyweight or he didn't do it. I don't remember. And I was 5 pounds under again, so the 188 is the weight. I weigh like 184, 183. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, for no-gi, it's 188. So I weigh like 184, 185. So I don't have to worry about it. So I eat the breakfast that I want to eat. I feel great. And every time that I've not cut weight for a tournament, I dominated. One of the biggest wins I ever had was the ACB tournament, which was 2017. It was the Russians, the Chechens, actually. They hosted a Grand Prix, and they were paying big money for the winners. And I went in there just severely underweight. Like, everybody was bigger than me, but I ran through that division. And it was one of the biggest wins of my life, to be honest. And I didn't cut weight, but I feel the other guys who cut weight. I can feel it on them. When I start pushing and we start getting into later into the round, or we get into some hot scrambles, I feel the fatigue on them. And when I feel them fatigue, I get really motivated and I start really pushing the pace. And I can, because I'm healthy and I'm full and I have glucose in me and glycogen or whatever. And I have energy, and they were cutting, so they don't. I felt it on Mateus many times. Me and Mateus fought 4 times. And I can feel him sometimes really feel fatigue and start to slow down. Because he's a big boy. I think I think he's more comfortable at heavyweight. And so I think it's an advantage for me to not cut weight. We weren't even talking about weight cutting. What were we talking about exactly?
Talking about like, what is your, like, getting ready for like a big fight?
Oh yeah.
ADCCs or whatever. Like,
right. So I have the monster breakfast in the morning because I don't cut
yeah.
weight. Yeah. And actually the year that I did cut a lot of weight, you know, because they split the black belts into 2 days, right? So you do the first 2 matches on the first day, second 2 matches on the second day. And I remember I overate on the morning of the next day, you know, because I cut the weight the first day, second day we don't have to make the weight again. So I had this monster breakfast right before the semifinals match, and I fought with Dante Leon. And I overate way too much. And I just thought I had 3 hours. I thought it would digest in 3 hours, and it didn't, man. It sat in my stomach like a brick. And I was out there with Dante going, and I was just feeling it. I was like, ugh. And then, but he was kind of in the same boat. And I talked to him after the match. I said, Dante, I said, I almost threw up on you, bro. He goes, me too. He's like, I ate way too much. I was like, oh, bro. We were both hurting, you know, because we both we cut too much weight and then we ate too much the next day. It was super funny. That was the referee decision. It was a really close match. And shout out to Dante. He's a good guy, man. I like him a lot, and a savage competitor. So yeah, so 3 hours before the match, I have a big breakfast. And then, yeah, then I just go to the venue. I hang out. I just kind of feel the energy of the room. I stretch a little bit. Maybe 2 hours, not 2, maybe 1 hour before the match, I grab a partner, I go do a good warm up, and then yeah, then I just hang out, I wait, I try not to get in my head too much. I just kind of try to enjoy the day. I very much enjoy tournaments. I like to be there. I like the energy in the room. I like the noise. I don't listen to too much music. I prefer to listen to the yelling, the crowd, the cheers, the coaches,
and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I like that. You know, I don't like using music to hype myself up, because if the music is your source, right? You're sitting there, you're listening, you're rocking out, you're like, yeah, you're feeling good. You're like, I'm gonna go fuck something up right now. And then your match is ready, and then you take it out. Well, you just took out your source of pump. That was your source. And then you're gonna take off the source right before you go out to the match. It's stupid, I think. You know what I mean? You just killed your vibe right before you get to go to the fight. So I prefer to draw on the crowds and the coaches and the yelling and the screaming. And that's how I get hyped up. That's how I get my adrenaline pumped. So I don't listen to music. I just listen to the crowd. And then when I'm out there and I hear the crowd screaming, it's, you know, it's I think it's weird to go from music to screaming, you know, like that as you go into the match. So I prefer just no music, and I go out there and thankfully now I have a bit of a reputation, and I think people get nervous. I get nervous too. I still get nervous sometimes, but not like I used to. And you know, I just kind of do my own thing, and I know that the other guy's thinking about me, you know, so I don't think about them too much. But when I do think about them, I know they're thinking about me, and I think that's a nice place to be, you know.
So I know in the past you've talked about, you know, possibly opening up your own school, but the Rona has obviously put that on hold. You know, what does the future hold for you?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a fuzzy future, huh? It's hard. It's like trying to look at the sky, the stars through the clouds. You know, it's difficult. I definitely want to have an academy one day. I think it'd be really nice to have a community that is like kind of mine, you know, and my own little jiu-jitsu culture, my own little jiu-jitsu family. Atos is very family oriented. It's, you know, we pretty much, we only spend time with each other. We don't really hang out outside of our team. And I love that, you know, we're like brothers and sisters, and I would like to have that someday, you know, and like Andre is like the leader. He's like the team captain, of course, you know, and I think it'd be really cool to have my own little jiu-jitsu family. But again, what we've seen this past year with the coronavirus and the government just destroying businesses, it makes me nervous. You know, I don't want to open an academy and then have the government show up and start throwing $50,000 fines at me because I'm trying to run my business. You know, like my buddy Christian Woodmansey. Do you know who he is? Little guy, a lot of tattoos.
I've heard the name, but I wouldn't say I know him.
He's in Philadelphia, and he was still running business and trying to keep he just remodeled his old gym, and right before the coronavirus took over, And anyways, he was still doing his thing, and I guess the city was kind of like watching him and like, but not stopping him. They just kept like adding fines, and like he racked up like stupid amount of fines, and they never tried to stop him. They just let him keep going, and they're just like, oh, we're just going to keep giving you fines. And then they accumulated to be something just ridiculous, some ridiculous amount of money. And it's like, they kind of like baited him, you know, like they wanted to just let him keep fucking up, trying to keep his business open. And then they just blasted him one day with all these fines. And he's like, what? He's like, what do you mean I owe you this much? So I don't know that I want to open a gym anytime soon. And if I do, it's not going to be in California, that's for sure. You know, I'm going to go to a Republican state with a Republican governor, you know, someone who's more business friendly. But I think for now I'm just going to hang back and just, you know, I'm going to go do ADCC again, and I'll probably figure out what I'm going to do after that. I've saved up a lot of money. I have my academy money saved already. It's already done. I have it set aside. It's ready. Anytime I want to open the academy, I have this money ready to do it. So I don't have to borrow any money. I don't need a partner. I can just go do my own thing wherever I want to do it. So that's nice, because I was planning to do it this year, you know, but so I just set that money aside, and I'll do that whenever I'm ready to do it. And until then, I'm just gonna keep training and start competing in 2021 again. I just wrote off 2020. I said, fuck this year, you know, this year sucks. I'm not gonna compete. I know I feel bad for all the people who are trying to train for the matches, and they're trying to go through camps, but they can't really, you know. They're just drilling with their friends in their garage and then running and lifting weights. You know, it's not, I don't like to compete unless I'm absolutely prepared. You know, that's part of my mental strength is knowing that I'm always prepared when I compete. And I've competed a few times unprepared, and it didn't work out the way I wanted to. And then I can't help but just kick myself, you know, for that. Because then, of course, it's like, oh, I should have prepared more. I should have prepared better. But the circumstances now are just so damn difficult. I can't prepare myself correctly. And if I don't prepare myself correctly, I won't have the mental confidence that I need to win. And that will just fuck up my jiu-jitsu. So I'm just waiting for 2021. I'll get back into it next year.
Hey, I apologize. Do you mind if I pause for a second? I totally need to use the restroom.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool. So
no, I'll be with my coffee.
Like, give me like 2 minutes.
Yeah, we're back.
Sorry about that. I drink a shitload of water every day, and so like almost like every hour on the hour, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, gotta hydrate.
Yeah. All right. So no, that totally makes sense. So hey, Josh, where can people connect with you?
Instagram is the best way to get a hold of me. It's at Hinger BJJ. Facebook is not a good idea. I definitely have an athlete account on Facebook, but I almost never look at those messages, just because there's so much shit flows through that inbox, like just stuff that's not real or just people that are trying to be obnoxious. So Instagram is better. You can also email me, hingerbjj@gmail. Seminar inquiries are best via Instagram or email. And yeah, that's it. Yeah, email or Instagram is the best.
Yep. And then you also have a new instructional out. So the Hinger games on Jiu Jitsu X. You also have a Mano Plata instructional out, right?
I have three courses on Jiu Jitsu X. It is the Hingertine, the Mano Plata, and the sweep single takedown. I also have, and those are the newest, most recent, most updated instructionals. I also have a couple courses on the Grappler's Guide. Grappler's Guide is a great website. I don't mind mentioning both of them. I think Kina would prefer I don't. But Grappler's Guide is a bit of a different product. I don't know if anyone knows about it. But the guy that runs it, Jason Scully, is a super cool guy, really nice guy. He helps me out a lot with make instructionals. And what they do is it's a one-time payment for a lifetime membership. So I think it's around $300 for a lifetime membership. And he probably has like 7,000 videos on there, and then just dozens of high-level instructors also, including all the guys that are on Jiu Jitsu X also. So I have a no-gi Hingertine course on there, as well as my Mano Plata in the gi, and they have the sweep single instructional also. And then they do they can break the payment up into like 6 months of $50 or something like that, and then you have the lifetime membership. So it's a great website. They have a lot of instructionals. Like I can't even tell you how many they have and how many experts they have. So if you're going to go to Grappler's Guide, you can use my promo code HingerBJJ, get a discount. Jiu Jitsu X has all the newest ones, the most current, and Jiu Jitsu X has, I think, the best production quality. It's phenomenal. And yeah, so those are where my instructionals are. There's always Atos HQ, also Atos Online. You guys can check that one out. That's a kind of a different beast in itself. That's more all the Atos black belts and mostly Andre's stuff. So yeah, that's where all my stuff is.
Cool. And so do you guys do like just random open mats where people can come in and roll with you guys at Atos?
Yeah, Saturday is our open mat day. Saturday, 11 a.m. It got shut down for a bit, but it's making a comeback now. So yeah, Saturdays I think is open mat. People can roll through. You're not going to find a lot of competitors there though on Saturday. Usually people message me and they want to do like a private lesson or maybe it's a friend or something. I'll meet up with them on a Saturday and then I'll just end up staying there the whole day anyways. But yeah, Saturdays are open mat day. So there's always a few guys there.
Cool. Well, Josh, hey, I really appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, cool. Thank you.